Do you know what can make a good afternoon go really bad? And look, this is something that you don't really consider a lot. When you start getting out there on the trail and things are going real good and you're all confident and everything like that, well, there's one thing you always forget. That's your shaft. Your shaft is very important. I mean, it is the driving force behind everything that you do, and you've got to protect that shaft. If you hurt that shaft, it could turn into a bad afternoon, a bad week, a bad month. So, one thing you can do to your shaft to make it better is well, you got to bulk up that shaft, make it stouter, make it last longer, make it better. That thing will do more and more things. The stouter it gets, it'll last longer, and you will be much more happier at the end of the day because your shaft is stout. So let me show you how we're going to make our shaft stouter. And well, there they are. Them right there is some stout shafts. That's not what you were expecting? Well, that's the wrong tube channel right there. No, we're talking about drive shafts. So we went on the hunt for drive shafts for the old JKUR. We recently went to 4.5-inch rock crawler springs, and well, we still had the factory drive shafts in the Jeep, and they were doing okay. Honestly, we have not physically torn up the drive shaft just yet. Kind of, sort of. They are starting to vibrate pretty bad. The last trip we got off of, we crawled underneath there and checked them out, and well, we've torn the boots on them, and the grease has been slung out all over the transfer case and the rear end and all that stuff underneath the Jeep. So just to avoid disastrous consequences, which is going to happen here literally the next time we go off-road, there's even a bunch of slack like in the joints themselves where they're starting to get worn on the shafts. They're dead. They have died a really admirable death. They did not fail us and leave us stranded on the trail. We just happened to catch it exactly at the right time. So thank goodness for that. We went on the hunt for shafts. We reached out to, I'm going to say 3 major players, and they're all great companies. I do not knock not near a single one of them. The 3 that we reached out to were Oliver's, based off a recommendation from a gentleman in a Jeep club here that is local to us. Thank you, Austin. He has had really, really good luck with his Oliver shafts, and they looked really nice, and he received them very promptly. We also reached out to Tom Woods. Again, great shafts. None of these are exceptional over the other, and none of these are lesser than the other. Honestly, folks, this is my opinion, though, okay? We also reached out to Adams Driveshaft. So ultimately what it came down to in the end was they all offered the same components in their kits. These are 1350 extreme duty U-joints, non-greasable. This is not our daily driver. It really spends the majority of its time off-road, so we wanted something pretty stout. We ordered one of their kits, and it came with everything, which again, all the manufacturers did. They all offered the same thing. All the yokes were required, the pinion adapters, all the hardware. Look at that. They even labeled them for us personally. Wow. Anyways, ultimately what led to the decision to go to Adams was, I'm not going to say price necessarily, because they were all really closely priced initially off the shelf. Okay. All of the folks that we talked to, Oliver's, Tom Woods, Adams, were all nice people, but I'm going to say that Adams went a little above and beyond. Their customer service, just the way they talked to you on the phone, was absolutely amazing. They talked to us like they had already known us, like they had already worked on our Jeep, like we were just trying to make an improvement, not necessarily just buying another part. They literally sat on the phone and talked to me about our Jeep, what we do. Does this sound familiar? This is a lot like Evo. Those guys were great also. He talked to me like, hey, I've known you all my life. You've been building a Jeep. You're making it better. And this is what we would recommend you to do. He didn't try to sell me something that I didn't want. And they didn't try to talk me into something that I did not need. So honestly, it came down to that first over the dollar figure. They offered us a great deal. Strictly after talking to us about what we do, how we're going to try to feature their drive shafts, what we intend to do with them, and the fact that they will be out there and people will see them getting banged on and beat on, and they stand behind their product, and they were very, very proud to have somebody that was willing to do that. But there they are. We provided the measurements for them. Very nice. Talked us through it, exactly what to do, which it was very easy. It's really not a big deal. You can look it up on their websites, and it was super simple. But again, he talked us through it while we were on the phone. I mean, I literally would crawl underneath the Jeep, and I was like, hold on just a second, I'll get you that measurement. And they're like, hey, no problem. We're here to help you. And I talked to them while we were measuring the drive shaft, which was crazy cool. So there's the kit. Again, all the required adapters, all the hardware, the yokes. These are 1350 solid extreme U-joints. Custom built to length for our Jeep, our lift, our specs, everything that we do for them. And we're going to get them installed, and life is just going to be a whole lot better with a really good shaft to get us to our destination. So there you go, Adams Driveshaft. Let's get these things put in. You know what? After talking about it, and Steven, he's an absolutely fantastic gentleman, stand-up guy. He's like, man, don't do that slaying in the garage floor. Bring it over to the house. Let's put it back up on the lift where it'd be so much easier. So, yeah, thank you, Steven, so much. And we will be there in just a second, man, and we'll get these things put in there. So, let's get over there. And bam, just like that, up on the lift. So, Steven's underneath there now, or this guy right here, man. This guy is good as gold, I'm telling you. But let's get spun around here and we'll show you what's going on. I'd say it was a little bit wore out. Of course, the boot's torn, all the grease is slung out of it. You can see all that up there on the floor. But whew, anyway, nothing to it. 15 millimeter, 8 millimeters in the back. Zip them all out, get the front shaft out, throw it somewhere. It's junk. There it is, one stock front drive shaft. And I don't know if we can see this in here or not, but look. It's a little bit loosey-goosey. So, with the 1350s, we got to change the yokes and the pinion adapters and stuff like that. So it's just an 1.25 inch nut here, 1.25 inch nut up there on the transfer case. We'll get those buzzed off and move on from there. All right, so we got the old adapters off of the transfer case and the pinion up here in the front, and this is where a little bit of controversy is probably going to set in. I don't know which method I actually recommend, but we all know that crush sleeve in there is a one-time use. Once it is crushed, that's it. You're supposed to take all that back apart, change the crush sleeve, and start back all over. But all the videos that you see on the install, they don't do that. So, probably against better judgment, we're going to do it like the install videos show, and we just put the new pinion adapter on there. We got the nut back on there, and we tightened the nut up ever so slightly until it was just tight against the pinion adapter. And then what we did was we just kept tightening it ever so slightly, a little bit at a time, until we got all of the play out of the pinion. And I mean, it is tight. I'm not going to say that it's loose, but I just don't think that's the right way it should be done. I think the right way is you should pull it apart, change the crush sleeve, put it back together, and re-crush that down till you get your correct preload set. Now that's a lot of work because that involves taking the whole entire differential back apart, but I mean, I say a whole lot of work. It's really not that much work to take the thing back apart. But anyway, like I say, all the install videos out there showed to do it like this, so that's the way we're gonna do it, and hopefully it works out. As far as the back one goes, there wasn't nothing to that. I mean, we literally pulled the nut off, which it was 1.25 inches. I have to retract myself on the front, as it was actually 1.125 inches. Anyway, I got that wrong, but that was literally nothing to it. We pulled the nut off, tapped it a couple of times, that come right off. We slid the new adapter on, we put the nut back on, and we torqued it to 150 foot-pounds. And there really wasn't nothing to it. I mean, it went a lot simpler than what I thought. So there's the front. We're just gonna pop the drive shaft back in there. We got all new 1350U bolts for this. We got new bolts for the transfer case. We'll get all those in there. Do not over tighten these. You would be surprised how much torque you're putting on that strap on that U-joint cup, and it will actually crush that cup if you're not careful. So we're gonna slap the drive shaft in here, get all the bolts put in it, and we'll be right back. All right, so we got the front shaft put up in here. Now ours is a Rubicon, and on some Jeeps, as it says in the install videos, if you watch them, this little tab right, I can't really get it in right here, will interfere with the drive shaft ever so slightly. So you need to trim just a tiny bit off the end here so that it'll actually clear. It's no big deal. You can just use an air saw or something. Just take the shaft back out and you can snip it off. But we're just gonna take a little air saw here and we're gonna buzz that thing off. Just like that. Just a little bit off that ear is all it takes to clear the drive shaft. Right there. All right, don't forget to put a little tiny bit of Loctite on each of those 4 bolts that goes back into the transfer case flange. Just a little bit, you don't need to paint it. And there it is, one front drive shaft. Now, supposedly these torque to 85 foot-pounds, but in the video, they didn't torque them, but they give a torque spec, but I really don't have no way to get onto it, so I don't know how they do it. They must have to have some kind of like a crow's foot or something to get onto them, but we just gave it a double oomph with a really long wrench right here. I am quite confident that they are at least 85 foot-pounds for sure. But we got the little tab trimmed off up in there. Everything is tied up on the front. It rotates nice and smoothly now. And one thing I did notice also was, granted, the stock drive shaft is significantly larger in diameter, but that does not make it stronger. So the problem we were having was when we were in full droop now was we were actually rubbing on the cross member with the stock drive shaft. Now we're at full droop now, and we got tons of clearance in here. So that'll eliminate another problem as it is. But on to the back. Don't you just hate a backseat videographer? Always over your shoulder. Same thing on the back, 8mm bolts. Just zipping all those out. And then up here, a ton of 8mm bolts. We'll zip all those out. We'll get this flange off. We'll get that flange off. We'll install all the new adapters, and we'll get the other shaft stuck up in there. $147 bolts later. Alright, we just slid the old one off. We installed the new transfer case yoke there. Put a couple of bolts in there with a pry bar. Put a little RTV on the face of the nut, reinstall the nut, and torque it to 150 foot-pounds. Man, this video is going to look terrible. I mean, I swear it looks like Steven's doing everything. I'm just holding a camera. He'll probably nod his head. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. One more. And 150 foot-pounds, just like that. Now for us, it's probably metric or something like that, but it's 1 5/16 inches in the back is what fit on it exactly right, and the front was 1 1/4 inches. Now, like I say, it's probably supposed to be metric of some sort, but 1 5/16 inches worked for us. And don't forget your Loctite. And again, same thing as on the front. Some 1350 U bolts back here. don't over tighten them, you will crush the caps. And well, there it is. One Adams Driveshaft 1350 conversion on the JKUR. It is not difficult at all. The only thing we did to make it a little bit easier was we pulled this little skid plate right here off, which was just covering all this stuff right here. It just made it a lot easier to get on up in there. But there we go. Well, hopefully that problem is solved now, and we will figure out what the next problem is, I'm sure, later down the road.
Oh, it's coming.
And that, folks, is a wrap. I really appreciate you watching. It wasn't really necessarily meant to be a how-to or an install video. It was merely just informational stuff that we're dealing with as we go along, and you know what we're finding on the Jeep as we go along. So again, maybe it'll help. I do highly recommend the Adams Driveshafts. Again, their customer service was absolutely phenomenal. And we are out of here. Thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. We're still working on it. We're still trying to make it better. We're still learning what we're doing, because we still have a long, long way to go. A huge thanks to the Ugly Shield YouTube channel for coming on board as a subscriber. If you're dealing with Diamond Shield or the 3M equivalent on the front of your RV and you would like to get rid of that ugly crap, check out Ugly Shield removal products, as they can definitely help you get that stuff off the front of your motorhome for sure. And of course, to all of you who have taken the time out of your day, taken a little bit of time of your very valuable time to give to our little old YouTube channel here as subscribers. Without you guys, none of this would absolutely be possible at all. Your comments, your encouragement, your kind words, your recommendations, all of that goes into account in trying to make this YouTube channel a little better. This is still a work in progress. We are still learning as we go, and we are still trying to make things better. Hey, if you'd like, drop us a comment below on what brought you to the YouTube channel. I can't believe that each and every one of you found this little old YouTube channel. It is amazing. You guys are the best. You rock. I can't thank you enough. And I always say that over and over again, but I truly mean it, that I can never thank you enough for taking the time to subscribe to the channel. I hope to see each and every one of you out there somewhere. I would love to meet each and every one of you out there somewhere. Because remember, we still have a long, long way to go.